How is it going, guys? I saw a movie a while back, and this movie's called Afflicted, and you may have heard of it, may have not. Either way, I will review it for you. Yes, as you can tell, I do own the Blu-ray of this movie, and that's probably telling you something. And I do have a lot of things to say about this movie, guys, so, sit back, grab some popcorn, and, let's talk about it. But before I say anything else about this movie, I just kind of want to get the plot out of the way and over with. So it is a found footage movie, and you're following two best friends. Their names are Derek and Cliff, and, they are making this documentary sort of film where they're, just traveling around the world. As far as I remember, I think one of them is actually sick, which is the reason why they're traveling, around the world so they can live life to the fullest before one of them sadly passes away and goes. So it's simple enough, the movie kind of starts out like, as a legit documentary movie. Like, while watching this movie, you kind of forget that you're watching a horror movie, because you actually really think, it tricks you into believing that you're really watching a documentary, like with the way it's editing and the way they're talking to you, which is why I think this movie is so effective when the bad stuff starts happening. But we'll get to all that stuff later. So basically, what happens is, it kind of starts off as a normal trip, like I said, but then one of them starts to act a little weird, and, he starts growing rashes, and he's just, he's not like himself. And to be honest with you guys, I think that is where I'm gonna stop with the plot. I do not want to go any further because I do not want to spoil anything for you guys. Okay, so I originally heard about this movie when it was on Netflix, and I did add it to my queue, and I was planning on watching it, but I didn't really think anything about this movie. I just kind of looked at it, judging by the cover, that it was just kind of very generic found footage type movie, and so I wasn't really in a hurry to see it, like, whatsoever. So I was just kind of like, oh, I guess I'll just add it to my queue. It looks kind of interesting, and I really didn't think anything of it at the time. And then the end of 2014 came along, where a lot of people were, giving out their top 10 best movies of 2014 lists, or more specifically, top 10 best horror movies of 2014. And I was kind of surprised when I saw this specific movie on, like, every single top 10 best horror movie list that came out last year. And people just kept talking and talking about this movie online, and I was getting more curious. I was like, maybe it's not as bad as I think it is. So curious to see what the big whoop about this movie is. I went on I went on Netflix to watch it, and, the first thing I know is they took it off. It wasn't on Netflix anymore, and I was kind of bummed out because people were talking about this movie, and I wanted to see it so bad, and I had my chance, but I didn't think anything of it. Moral of the story, I guess, is don't judge a book by its cover. But okay, moving on. So a couple months passed by, I'm still thinking about this movie, still kind of want to watch it, and I saw it at my local Redbox, which is really cool, so I was like, there it is, I'll spend $1.30 to watch it. So I went home, and I popped it into my Blu-ray player, and I watched it, and from the minute this movie started all the way up to the very end, my eyes were glued to the screen the entire time. I thought this movie was so interesting and so intriguing, and they make it so believable as well. This is one of those found footage movies that are actually done right. Like I said in the very beginning, you are literally watching a documentary movie about a guy who is very sick, and he's traveling, across the world with his best buddy, and that alone, seems like a pretty interesting plot for a movie. But then some stuff starts happening, and the next thing you know, you're watching, like, a completely different movie. But like I said, I think what made this movie so great was, like, it was the build-up, it made it a lot more effective. And after the movie was over, I was like, man, that was actually really good, I kind of want to see, who the filmmakers were, and who the director was, and everything, and so I go onto the IMDb page, and I look to see who directed the movie, and I look at the names, and it's Derek Lee and Cliff Prowse. And it took me a while to realize that those were the two main guys in the movie. The two best friends in this movie, the two main actors were the directors of this movie. And I go on each one of their pages, and literally the only movie that they are credited for is this exact movie. Besides a couple of short films that they did, I guess, before they made this movie, but this is the only movie that they're credited for. And I think that's awesome. And it just adds more, realism to the entire thing, not just the movie, but like the whole idea of the movie as well. Like, as a found footage movie, it makes it a lot more believable. And I don't think that's something that's really been done before in a movie, where they go even farther, outside of the movie to make it, even more believable. And to me, personally, that's found footage done right, and that is exactly why I love this movie. And it's because you can tell, like, these guys went so far into making this movie that, they went into, like, certain boundaries that no other filmmaker has really done before. And I mean, obviously it is fake, you know, judging by the special features, you know, they have it behind the scenes, and they won Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Screenplay at the Fantastic Fest Horror Festival, I guess. But yeah, guys, I just thought that was really interesting, and if you're gonna do a found footage movie, do it like these two guys, because they definitely know how to make a believable found footage movie. Okay, now on to the actual movie itself. This movie is awesome. Not only is it extremely well made as a found footage movie, but like some of the choreography and stuff in this movie, I really don't want to give anything away, but let's just say there are a couple of scenes with the GoPro, and it's attached to somebody's head, and you're just kind of watching them. It's like a non-stop action, and it's kind of like watching one of those videos of, like, you know, people doing parkour and stuff, and they have the GoPro on their head and they're doing all this crazy stuff. It's kind of like that, except, you know, it's a horror movie and stuff is happening, and oh my god, it is awesome. This movie has some of the best action sequences I've seen in a while, and it's done very well. And another thing that I think makes this movie so effective is that you actually really do care for the characters in this movie. And you know, as the movie goes on, you actually, you know, feel as if you know Derek and Cliff personally. Like, they do a really good job, you know, with the character development and getting to know these two, which is why when all the bad stuff starts happening, you know, it makes it much more effective. But yeah, these two are just like, you know, your everyday average guys, and you know, you're just watching them making their own documentary film, and you know, it goes wrong, and you actually kind of really do feel bad for them. But despite all that nonsense, this movie is crazy. It is really hard to talk about what I really liked about this movie without spoiling anything for you guys, so I really can't tell you like what I really liked about this movie. So the really thing I can only tell you is that this movie's awesome, and you should go watch it, and it really isn't your everyday found footage type of movie. And I can definitely see why this movie got so much praise when it came out, and why it was on so many people's top 10 best horror movies of 2014 lists. And yes, it is personally on my top 10 best horror movies of 2014 list, which I have yet to do, by the way. I will get to that soon. But yeah, just so you guys know, this is one of them. This is one of the best movies I've seen last year. And it is definitely worth checking out, especially for those of you who are horror fans. And also, guys, I forgot to mention, but back to the whole, you know, Derek and Cliff directing and starring and doing the screenplay in their own movie, all of these subordinate characters as well, you know, the more minor characters, even, you know, I'm looking at, like, their IMDb pages right now, and it's even, their names are the names in the movie. So it's like they really are playing themselves, and that just, again, adds more realism to the entire movie. Like, not even just the movie itself, but the idea of the movie as well. Besides a couple of actors and actresses in here who were giving a fake name, but, you know, I mean, maybe they, you know, it's a nickname given to them, I don't know. Like, this movie, like, it makes you really think, like, is it real? I mean, it's not real, but it's still cool, damn it. And I just think it's really neat that they went that far to add realism to the movie, and the movie has a budget of $318,000, and with the budget that low and a movie this entertaining, you can definitely tell that these two guys have talent, and that they know how to make a movie, and that they're better than most directors out there today, I should say. No offense to any directors out there, but you know, do what these guys do, you know? Do something a little bit more new, a little bit more creative. Don't make that generic horror movie crap that we see every day. But yeah, guys, personally, I gotta say, this is probably the best found footage movie I saw last year, and it's probably, I'm gonna go as far as to say this is one of the best found footage movies I've ever seen, considering the fact that the directors and the stars, you know, went as far as to, you know, go outside of the movie to, you know, make it more look realistic. But yeah, guys, you get the idea. It's definitely something that's very new, and it's definitely something that you should all check out right away. And be sure to check it out as soon as you guys can get your hands on it. But yeah, so Afflicted is overall a very good, very effective found footage movie, and it's honestly one of the best I've ever seen, and you should definitely check it out. And overall, I'm going to go ahead and give this film a 4.5 out of 5. This is definitely one of the best movies I saw last year, and definitely one that is worth seeing. But yeah, guys, I give major props to Derek Lee and Cliff Prowse for making this movie, and they are the reason why this movie turned out to be so great. Alright, guys, that is about it for this review. I'm Jacob Palacio. Do not forget to leave a comment down below on what movie I should review next, and I will see you guys later.